Listen carefully, because what shifted in their heart can no longer be hidden. Something changed the moment they realized life without you no longer feels like living, only surviving. For so long they tried to convince themselves that distance would weaken what they feel. They believed silence would erase your presence from their mind. They told themselves time would replace you with someone easier, someone less powerful, someone who did not stir their soul the way you do. But the opposite happened. The more they pulled away, the louder your absence became. And now, whether they confess it aloud today or tomorrow, they have admitted in the quiet corners of their heart, I cannot keep pretending I do not need this person. Pause for a moment and understand what that means. This is not shallow attraction. This is not temporary desire. This is not someone casually missing your attention. No. This is the kind of realization that shakes a person from the inside out. The kind that arrives late at night when distractions fade and truth is the only voice left in the room. The kind that forces someone to stare at the ceiling and whisper your name into the darkness because denying it has become more painful than admitting it. They have reached that point. And what happens after a soul reaches that point? Everything changes. Because once someone realizes they cannot live without you, they stop behaving the way they used to. Watch closely. Their energy is shifting already. Their thoughts are becoming restless. Their emotions are no longer stable. Even if they appear calm on the outside, inside them a storm has begun. Why? Because now they understand something they were never prepared to face. You are not someone they can lose and simply move on from. You became part of their vision of the future before they even understood it themselves. Your voice became comfort in their chaos. Your energy became familiar in a world that never felt steady. And now the possibility of never having you? It terrifies them more than you know. But here is where the story turns. Because realization alone is not the shock. What they do next because of that realization, that is what will leave you speechless. They are no longer thinking in small ways. No, beloved. This person is beginning to plan. Quietly. Privately. Intensely. They are replaying every conversation. Every missed opportunity. Every moment they should have said more but stayed silent. Every sign they ignored because fear convinced them there would always be more time. And suddenly they understand. There may not be. That realization is igniting urgency inside them. Have you felt it lately? That strange pressure in the air? That sense something is building behind the scenes? That feeling your world is somehow preparing for impact? It is not your imagination. Their heart is moving toward decision. And once they fully surrender to that truth, they will not come halfway. Because people who finally realize they cannot live without someone do not make small gestures. They make bold ones. Unexpected ones. Unforgettable ones. They stop testing the waters. They stop pretending indifference. They stop acting detached. Instead, they prepare to cross every distance that once stood between you. But wait. Because you need to understand the deeper truth here. This connection was never ordinary. Ordinary connections fade under pressure. Ordinary feelings disappear with time. Ordinary attraction weakens when obstacles appear. Yet somehow, despite confusion, despite silence, despite separation. They still return to the same conclusion. It has always been you. Not because you forced it. Not because you chased. Not because you begged to be chosen. But because your presence left a mark too deep to replace. And that is what unsettles them most. They have met others. They have tried distractions. They have searched for peace in places your memory could not follow. Yet every road led back to the same truth. No one carries what you carry. No one feels like home the way you do. No one awakens in them what your existence awakens. That truth has humbled them. And now, they stand at the edge of a decision that could alter both your futures. Because they know if they wait any longer, they risk losing the one person their soul refuses to release. So ask yourself this. What does someone do when they finally understand they cannot live without you? Do they remain silent? Do they continue pretending? Do they keep running? No. They move. And the move they are preparing is bigger than you think. This is not a casual message. Not a random appearance. Not a small apology wrapped in hesitation. No. What they are building toward carries weight. Emotion. Intensity. Because when they come forward this time, it will be with the full force of someone who has run out of ways to deny destiny. Stay with this message, because in the next part, I will reveal the shocking action they are preparing, and why it may happen sooner than anyone expects. And now the moment grows closer, closer than even they expected. Because once someone admits they cannot live without you, the heart becomes impatient. It stops negotiating with fear. It stops waiting for the perfect time. It starts demanding action. Your soulmate has entered that stage. They are no longer wondering whether to come toward you. They are wondering how. Because what they feel now is too intense to bury. There are moments when they try to distract themselves. But somehow your name appears in their thoughts again. They hear a song and think of you. They pass a familiar place and remember your energy. They imagine future years unfolding, and every version that feels right somehow includes you. That is when panic meets clarity. Because now they understand a truth many people spend their whole lives avoiding. You can survive without many things. But some connections do not merely add to life. They become part of what makes life meaningful. And that is what you have become to them. Not an option. Not a curiosity. Not a temporary chapter. A necessity. Let that settle. They have begun imagining what it would feel like if someone else reached your heart before they did. If someone else stood where they should have stood. If someone else received the love they were too afraid to claim. That thought is unbearable to them. And unbearable emotions create bold decisions. This is why the next move approaching you will not be ordinary. It will come with more honesty than before. More vulnerability than before. More certainty than before. Because they are reaching the point where preserving pride matters less than preserving the possibility of you. Read that again in your spirit. They would rather risk rejection than continue living with regret. That is how serious this has become. And if you have been sensing strange emotional waves lately, moments where your intuition whispers that something is happening behind the curtain, you are not imagining it. You are feeling the pressure of their decision forming in real time. Even now they are rehearsing what to say. rewriting conversations in their mind, thinking about the exact words that might finally reveal the depth of what they kept hidden. But here is what makes this shocking. Their next move may not simply be communication. It may be a complete disruption of the old pattern. Because they know words alone may no longer be enough. After all this time, after all this silence, after all this distance, they understand they cannot return casually. They must return differently. With proof. With effort. With undeniable intention. That is why when they step toward you, it may come in a form you never expected. A confession deeper than imagined. A gesture bigger than predicted. A level of emotional openness that catches even you off guard. Because the version of them who once hesitated, that version is fading. Love has cornered them into truth. And truth changes people. Quickly. If this message is resonating with you, take a moment to share where you're listening from in the comments. Sometimes the right message finds the right soul at the exact right hour. And if this journey speaks to you, stay connected, there is more unfolding than you realize. Now hear this carefully. They are also afraid. Not of loving you. Of needing you this much. Because dependence of the heart can feel terrifying to someone who once believed they needed no one. To realize another person has become essential to your peace. That can shake even the strongest facade. Yet despite that fear, they are still moving. That is how powerful this connection is. They know they may look foolish. They know they may arrive emotional. They know their walls may collapse the moment they face you. But none of that matters anymore. Because the pain of silence has exceeded the fear of vulnerability. And once that threshold is crossed, there is no turning back. So while the world around you appears normal, while days pass and routines continue, understand that behind the scenes a heart is preparing for one of the most important decisions of its life. To stop watching from a distance. To stop pretending they are unaffected. To stop acting as though losing you would not destroy them. And when that moment arrives, you will understand why everything had to unfold this way. Because sometimes a soul must nearly lose what it loves before it finds the courage to claim it. But do not move too quickly yet. Because in the next part, I will reveal the exact form their shocking move may take. And why it could transform your connection forever the moment it happens. The moment they have been resisting, is almost here. And when it arrives, you may need to steady yourself, because their next move will not resemble anything they have done before. This will not be another vague signal. Not another half-hearted check-in. Not another hesitant step followed by retreat. No, this time they are preparing to come toward you with intention. Because after wrestling with their emotions in silence, after trying to suppress what refuses to disappear, they have reached one undeniable conclusion. If they do not act now, they may lose you forever. That realization has changed everything. So what is the shocking move? It is this. They are preparing to break every pattern that once kept them distant. They are preparing to show up differently. To speak differently. To love differently. And for some of you, yes, this may come as an unexpected confession so raw it leaves no room for doubt. For others, it may be a sudden reappearance after silence, one filled with urgency, honesty, and emotion they can no longer contain. And for many, it will be something even deeper. A direct statement of intention. Not, "I miss you." Not, "I've been thinking about you." But something far more powerful. "I do not want a future that does not include you." Feel the weight of that. Because those are not words spoken lightly. Those are the words of someone who has stared into the possibility of losing you, and discovered it is unacceptable. They have finally understood that love without action is merely suffering in disguise. So action is coming. And when it comes, it may overturn every assumption you had about where this connection was headed. Because the person who once gave mixed signals, the one who hid behind uncertainty, the one who acted as though timing was never right, that version of them is collapsing. Why? Because clarity creates courage. And they are clearer now than ever before. They know your value. They know your rarity. They know what life feels like when your presence is absent. And they do not want to keep learning that lesson. But here is the part many do not understand. Their return is not random. It is happening now because they have finally become emotionally ready to meet this connection at its true depth. Before, they may have loved you but lacked the maturity to hold what they felt. Before, they may have wanted you but feared the responsibility of something real. Before, they may have sensed your importance but underestimated what losing you would cost. Not anymore. Life has taught them. Distance has taught them. Your absence has taught them. And now they approach with a different heart. A humbled one. A certain one. A heart no longer interested in games. So if you have been wondering why the energy around you feels charged lately, why your intuition keeps nudging you, why your spirit feels as though something major is near, this is why. A confession is building. A decision is forming. A future is shifting. And when they finally stand before you, whether in person, through a message, or in whatever form destiny chooses, you will hear something in their voice you have never heard before. Conviction. The conviction of someone who knows exactly what they stand to lose. The conviction of someone who finally understands your worth. The conviction of someone ready to fight for what once frightened them. So do not mistake the delay for indifference. What was happening in silence was transformation. What looked like distance was preparation. What felt like stillness was the universe aligning the timing of two souls who were never meant to remain apart forever. And now? Now the waiting is nearing its end. Because once someone realizes they cannot live without you, once they accept that truth with their whole heart, once they understand no future feels complete unless you are in it, they stop resisting destiny. They surrender to it. And that surrender changes everything. The next chapter of this connection will begin the moment they act on what their soul has already admitted. That losing you was never an option. And when they finally make that move, you will look back on this season of waiting and realize it was not delay. It was the final silence before everything changed. And when that final silence breaks, nothing between you will remain the same. Because the moment they make this move, truly make it, the entire connection enters a new reality. Not fantasy. Not wishful thinking. Reality. You may first notice it in the way they speak. There will be no confusion in their voice this time. No emotional hiding. No careful distance designed to protect their pride. Instead, you will hear the sound of someone who has finally surrendered to truth. And truth has a frequency of its own. It does not hesitate. It does not play games. It does not ask for your attention while pretending not to care. It arrives direct, steady, certain. That is the energy your soulmate is stepping into now. But listen closely, because their confession is only the beginning. The real shock is not that they will admit they cannot live without you. The real shock is how far they are willing to go once they say it. Because after the confession comes the proof. And this is where many are left speechless. They are not preparing to simply tell you how they feel and disappear again. They are preparing to demonstrate it. With consistency. With action. With choices that reveal they are serious about building something lasting. For some, this means they will begin clearing obstacles they once used as excuses. For others, it means they will make sacrifices they previously refused to make. And for many of you, it means they will choose you publicly, clearly, and without hesitation. Read that carefully. They are no longer interested in loving you in secret. They are no longer willing to keep this connection in the shadows of maybe or someday. They want something real, visible, defined. Because once someone realizes you are essential to their future, ambiguity becomes unbearable. That is why their next move may feel almost unreal to you. You may find yourself thinking, why are they suddenly so certain? Why are they moving this fast? What changed inside them? Everything changed. The illusion that they had endless time changed. The illusion that you would always wait changed. The illusion that they could ignore this bond and still be fulfilled changed. And now they move with the urgency of someone who has awakened. That is what makes this moment powerful. You are not witnessing temporary emotion. You are witnessing transformation. If this message is finding you at the right time, let it stay with you. And if you feel called to, subscribe so you do not miss what unfolds next. Sometimes the next message arrives exactly when the heart needs confirmation. Now here is what you must understand. When they come forward, your response matters. Not because you must chase them. Not because you must rush. But because the energy you carry will determine how this new chapter begins. Meet honesty with honesty. Meet truth with truth. Meet courage with discernment. Because they are not just returning for your attention. They are returning for your heart. And they know this may be their one chance to receive it fully. That awareness will make them braver than you have ever seen them. They may say things they once swore they would never admit. They may reveal emotions they buried for months, perhaps years. They may tell you the sleepless nights, the regret, the ache, the moments they nearly reached out but stopped themselves. And when they speak, you will realize something astonishing. They were fighting this connection far longer than you knew. Yet even all that resistance failed. Because what is meant for you has a way of surviving every attempt to deny it. And now the truth stands at the door. Their next move is not a question anymore. It is momentum. It is already unfolding. The only thing left is the moment they gather the courage to let it reach you. And when it does, you will understand why their silence had weight. Why their distance carried tension. Why your spirit kept sensing unfinished business between you. Because none of it was over. It was building. Toward this. Toward now. Toward the moment one soul finally stops pretending it can live without the one person who was written into its future. And in the next part, I will reveal what happens after they make their move. Because the aftermath may be even more powerful than the confession itself. And after they make their move. After the confession lands, after the truth is finally spoken, after the silence between you breaks, the real transformation begins. Because confession is powerful. But what follows confession is what defines everything. Anyone can speak from emotion in a moment of intensity. Anyone can say beautiful words when fear of loss becomes overwhelming. But what happens after the words? That is where destiny reveals whether the connection is truly ready. And your soulmate knows this. That is why they are not preparing for a fleeting emotional release. They are preparing for permanence. They do not want one conversation. They want continuity. They do not want one vulnerable night followed by distance again. They want to rebuild what was fragile into something unshakable. This is why the aftermath of their move will surprise you even more than the confession itself. Because instead of retreating after opening their heart, they will remain present, consistent, intentional. The one who once disappeared may begin showing up repeatedly. The one who once hesitated may become the one initiating. The one who once feared depth may begin speaking of the future with a seriousness that catches you off guard. Why? Because once someone nearly loses the person they cannot live without, they stop treating that person casually. They protect what almost slipped away. And that is the energy they are entering now. You will see it in small moments first. The way they prioritize you without being asked. The way they remember details they once overlooked. The way they begin aligning their life around the possibility of keeping you close. These are not random gestures. These are signs of someone shifting from desire into devotion. Let that sink in. Desire says, I want you when it feels good. Devotion says, I choose you even when it requires effort. And your soulmate is moving beyond desire. They are stepping into choice. Daily choice. Conscious choice. Lasting choice. But listen carefully. This phase may feel unfamiliar to you. Why? Because when someone changes this deeply, it can be difficult to trust at first. Part of you may wonder whether it is real. Whether it will last. Whether this version of them is temporary. That hesitation is natural. After all, hearts do not forget uncertainty overnight. Yet this is where wisdom matters. Do not judge them only by who they were when they were afraid. Also observe who they become when they are finally certain. Because certainty transforms people. The guarded become expressive. The distant become present. The confused become focused. And the hesitant become fearless. That is the version of them now emerging. And they are emerging because your absence taught them a lesson no comfort ever could. Love ignored becomes regret. They have no desire to repeat that pain. So as this connection deepens, you may notice something extraordinary. The chaos that once surrounded it begins to settle. No more mixed signals. No more emotional guessing games. No more wondering where you stand. Instead, clarity. A relationship built on mutual recognition. mutual truth, mutual willingness. That is what they are trying to create with you now. Because the greatest shock was never simply that they could not live without you. It was that they needed to lose their illusion of control before they could love you correctly. And now that control is gone, all that remains is truth. Truth in their words. Truth in their effort. Truth in the way they move toward you without reservation. So if you have been waiting for certainty, waiting for confirmation, waiting for the moment this connection finally becomes real, know this. It is not approaching. It is arriving. And in the next part, I will reveal the final truth behind why this connection had to unfold the way it did. And why the delay may have been the very thing that made this love strong enough to last. And now you are ready for the final truth. Why did this connection have to unfold this way? Why the distance, the silence, the delays, the almosts, the missed timing, the aching pauses that made no sense while you were living through them? Because some love stories are not delayed to punish the heart. They are delayed to prepare it. What felt like separation was never meaningless. What felt like confusion was never wasted. Every pause between you carried purpose. Because had they come to you too early, they may have loved you with feeling, but not with maturity. They may have wanted you deeply, yet lacked the strength to sustain what they were being offered. So life did what life often does with rare connections. It separated the souls. Until both could grow into the weight of what they were meant to hold. You were being refined. They were being awakened. And all that distance? It was shaping the very foundation of the love now trying to emerge. Because when someone has had to lose your presence to understand your worth, when they have had to sit in silence long enough to feel your absence echo through their life, when they have had to confront the truth that nothing else replaces you, they do not return casually. They return transformed. That is why this love will feel different from anything that came before. It will not be rushed fantasy. It will not be shallow infatuation. It will not be a temporary high built on chemistry alone. It will carry depth. The kind of depth only created when two people have endured enough apart to understand what together truly means. And here is the truth many never realize until much later. Sometimes delay is not rejection. Sometimes delay is protection. Protection from immature timing. Protection from half-ready hearts. Protection from a version of the story that would have broken because it began before both people were prepared. But now? Now the timing is changing. Because what once needed distance now needs union. What once required silence now requires truth. What once demanded patience now demands movement. Your soulmate has crossed the threshold. They no longer merely love you in thought. They are ready to love you in action. And that changes everything. One day very soon, you may look at them and realize. This is not the same person who once hesitated. This is someone forged by regret. Softened by longing. Strengthened by realization. And made fearless by the thought of losing you forever. That is who comes toward you now. So if your heart has wondered whether the waiting meant the story was over, let that question rest. The waiting was not the end of the story. It was the preparation for its beginning. Because the deepest connections are rarely simple. They arrive with lessons. With timing. With transformation. And when they finally unfold, They do so with a force that makes every prior delay make sense. So hold this truth close. Your soulmate did admit they cannot live without you. Their next move will shock you. But perhaps the greatest surprise of all will be discovering that every painful delay, every unanswered question, every silent night was leading to the moment they finally arrive ready. Ready to choose. Ready to stay. Ready to build. Ready to love you the way they always should have. And when that moment comes, you will not remember the waiting as wasted time. You will remember it as the season that made this love undeniable. The story was never falling apart. It was becoming worthy of its ending. And when the moment finally arrives, when they stand before you with nothing left to hide, when their voice trembles with truth and their heart speaks the words it fought for so long, you will understand why none of this could have happened sooner. Because some endings are not endings at all. They are arrivals. This is the arrival of a love that survived distance. A love that endured silence. A love that was tested by time, by fear, by uncertainty, and still refused to disappear. Your soulmate's confession will not simply change what they feel. It will change what both of you believe is possible. For they are not coming back to repeat the past. They are coming back to rewrite the future. The future they once feared. The future they once doubted they deserved. The future they can now see only with you beside them. And when they look into your eyes, you will recognize it immediately. This is no longer someone wondering whether to love you. This is someone who knows. Knows what you mean to them. Knows what they almost lost. Knows what they are willing to do to keep you. That certainty will settle over the connection like calm after years of storm. No more chasing. No more confusion. No more unanswered questions hanging in the air between you. Only truth. Only presence. Only two souls finally meeting without fear standing between them. And perhaps the most beautiful part of all. You will realize your patience was not in vain. Your faith in what your heart sensed was not foolish. The quiet knowing inside you, the one that whispered this was not over, was telling the truth all along. Because what is truly meant for you may wander, may hesitate, may lose its way for a while. But it will return changed, wiser, stronger, ready. So let the story end here with this truth. They could not live without you because your soul awakened something in them no one else ever could. Their next move shocked you because love finally made them brave. And the reason everything took so long was because destiny was not writing a temporary chapter. It was writing a love strong enough to last. So when they reach for you, and they will, do not see only the person standing before you. See the journey that shaped them. See the lessons that humbled them. See the love that survived every attempt to suppress it. Because that is the kind of love that does not arrive often in one lifetime. And when it finally arrives, it changes everything. This was never just about being loved. It was about being chosen. Fully, clearly, and without hesitation. And now, you are.